Welcome to the Bougie Baldy Podcast with your host, Kelly Rhymes.
Everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Bougie Baldy Podcast. Today, I have another great guest for you to hear from. Her name is Nekeyta BRUNSON, and she is the owner of a nonprofit called She Uncovered. She's Uncovered is a Lansing, Michigan-based nonprofit dedicated to supporting and uplifting women and girls facing hair loss due to alopecia and other conditions through community events, image consulting, and confidence coaching. Nekeyta and her organization is a guide to women and girls with low to severe forms of hair loss when it comes to navigating their changing appearance by empowering them to embrace their beauty and confidence. Welcome, Nekeyta.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. So Nekeyta and I kind of connected through a Facebook group, one of the hair loss support groups out there. And I
Mhm.
was looking for people for the podcast, and Nekeyta is one of the people who raised her hand. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem, no problem. So I always kind of start off by just asking, what was your hair loss journey? What led you to, and I guess I should say the next part of that would be what led you to starting your nonprofit. So let's first go into your hair loss journey.
So, my hair loss journey started when I was very young. I was a young girl. I just remember losing my hair more than I remember having hair. I do have memories of um, my mom pressing my hair for like Easter or something, church, I
Mhm.
should say, and the black Dax grease. And like, so I do have memories of that. But then my next memories would be more or less going to school with a hat on, and the kids kind of like, well, why does she get to wear a hat? Because um when I was coming up in school, it was more strict about, you could your clothes, like what you could wear, and
Right.
you weren't allowed to wear a hat in school. And so it was like all the kids couldn't wear a hat, and all of a sudden this girl has a hat on, and
Mhm.
why does she get to wear a hat? And being picked on and bullied about it. So I remember going to the doctors. I remember some of the treatments that my mom had tried at home,
Mhm.
and like my scalp flaking, and just not feeling great about it. So it's a really spotty beginning of my own remembrance. But I just remember, going through grade school, going through high school, going through dating and things like that. And it just being not anything of good, getting my
Uh-huh.
wig pulled off in school, being chased, being questioned. Um, and it was just like, it would be easier just not to deal with it. And so I didn't. It was easy to wear wigs and quick weaves and all these things. And so my hair did grow, and it would fall out, and it would grow and fall out. And so I just would glue, as I got into high school, I would just glue stocking caps onto my head and do what they call a quick weave.
Right.
And that became my go to. I think one time I had enough hair for my friend to like try a crochet style on me, and it was so painful because I mean they weren't even heavy, but they were heavy to me, and it just hurt so bad. And so
Mhm.
I was like, I can't do that. So wearing the quick weaves over the years, every time I would take one off, you just peel it, because I wasn't trying to protect my head or anything like that. So
Mhm.
I ended up with like the scars from, the glue, the chemical scars, and all these other stuff. And so then my hair just stopped growing. I guess it was like, listen, you don't
Right.
want me here. I'm not trying to be here. We gonna be done. So
So did the doctor ever say what type of alopecia you have or what was causing the hair? Like, did they give you any information?
so when I was younger, I remember my mom saying I had alopecia areata.
Okay.
Um, Now I actually is interesting enough. I've been trying to go back to the doctor my own self as an adult to say,
Hmm.
hey, can we get this clarified? Like, I want to know now what it is. And it's actually not as been as easy as I thought it would be.
No. Mhm.
It has been like I get there and I'm like, hey, I have an autoimmune disease. And I always think that it's interesting, even throughout my years, younger years, when I would go to the doctor, they never mentioned it. Like they never would be like, oh, we see you have an autoimmune disease here. Like they
Mhm.
didn't never really talked about it. And so I would have to bring it up to them. And I'm like, is it not in my chart or anything like that?
Uh-huh.
And so again, it just gave way for me to just ignore it because they weren't bringing it up. And so yeah, so I've been trying to go now to see like, and I feel like there's always an obstacle of, oh, okay, we got to do this, and then we got to. So I haven't even gotten to the answer of that yet now, but I do know when I was younger, it was alopecia areata because it was more spotty than
Okay.
now, where it's just not there at all.
Yeah, and I know some like people have different forms of alopecia, and I didn't learn that
Hmm.
until I started, kind of helping women as well. Like, oh, I didn't even know that you could have different forms of alopecia. But yeah,
Yeah.
so or it can transition into another form. You may start off with one and it transitions to something else. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, okay. But to
Yeah.
your point, yes, getting into a dermatologist, and even for myself, I've had difficulties just getting an appointment because like
Hmm.
we're full or we're not accepting patients until next year, and it's like what? And then you can only go to certain type of dermatologists. You have to find
Right.
one that specializes in hair because everyone is not going to be the same. So definitely a challenge. And even when I've seen a dermatologist, they did not give me much information as far as what could
Yeah.
be done or besides doing a biopsy. And then they're like, well, it's going to put a scar in your head. And I'm like, well, heck, I've already embraced this bald look. I don't need any scars in my head. So let's just
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah. I
I
agree.
definitely can relate to what you're going through as an adult, just trying to just get answers or bringing information up to the doctors when you think they should be bringing it to you, or suggesting things to doctors when you think, hey, shouldn't you be telling me what I need to
Right.
be versus the other way around?
Right. Yeah. I always thought that was strange.
So I know you have a daughter, correct?
Hmm. Yes.
Okay. Now, does your daughter have hair loss or alopecia or anything like that? Has it affected her?
No, no. I actually have two girls and two
Okay.
boys, and none of them have any signs currently of alopecia, and they've surpassed the ages that I was when I had it. So
Okay.
yeah, nope, they have really thick and full hair.
Isn't that crazy? It's like,
Yes.
how did this happen? But again, nobody could tell you that answer either.
Right. Right.
Nobody at all. And it's just like, I remember being young and my hair was so thick and so coarse. Like
Hmm.
I had a head full of hair. So to think back then, and I used to like complain about how
Yeah.
tough my hair was, and I was tender headed, and it was like,
Hmm.
but then I also started reflecting back on when I was younger, and I did have issues with my scalp. I mean, we just didn't know. I know
Right.
now, I'm pretty sure that those were some signs of alopecia, but we didn't know. We just didn't
Yeah.
know. And my mom would take me to the doctor. The doctor gave me some type of oil or something to put on my scalp, some special shampoo that dried my hair out and broke it off.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot going on. But again, at that point, I was not diagnosed with any type of alopecia. I was just having issues with my scalp, like flaking, or sometimes I would
Hmm.
get scabs on my scalp out the blue that started like pussing. And especially, of course, when I got a relaxer, I would always have a chemical burn after
Yeah.
relaxers. So yeah, it's just amazing how when you start thinking back, you're like, "Ooh, this started earlier than I thought." You know?
Yes, I had that same. I remember all those flakes and everything too. It was embarrassing
Yeah. Yeah. And
and
I know it was tough
uncomfortable.
for you. Tough for you,
Yeah.
especially being in school. Like you mentioned having your wig snatched off. I couldn't imagine being a young kid and having those things happen. How did you make it through? How did you, get through it?
Fighting. Fighting. Yes. Like literally fighting. I
Okay.
didn't grow up in a like community of like people who were talked to. I mean, I'm sure the teachers probably said something, but when the teachers brought it up, that was gonna make it worse because the kids was just gonna be like, "Oh, well, when she leave, I'm gonna."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it wasn't that at all. It was a lot of fighting, like a lot of like hands-on fighting because yeah, they were just like attacking me personally by, pulling my wig off, and they thought that it was funny.
Right.
And so I grew up, where I was, it was like, oh, if somebody did something to you, you don't just lay down, you get back with them. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, during my younger years, I did a lot of fighting. And even into like my early high school years, I think after 10th grade, I just kind of started again. It just made me avoid people because it was just like, I don't have time to be fighting folks. I really don't. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just shied back as much as I could to just stay out of people's way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
one thing I always talk about because I've gone through withdrawal myself. Like that is something that happens to a lot
Yeah.
of women with hair loss. Like, and I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen to me, and I'm only focusing on women because that's who I support. But yeah, that withdrawal is a big thing. It changes your personality. And I've talked
Yeah.
about that. It's like you're just definitely not the same person that you used to be, you know?
Right. Right.
So, based off of your experiences and your history with hair loss, how did
Hmm.
that lead you to She's Uncovered, your nonprofit?
So she's uncovered it started just by accident. Honestly, I tell the story of like one of my daughters who saw a lady at a track meet that I never even really saw. Like I think I barely saw the back of her head because my daughter was like, "Oh my God, look at her." And she went into the crowd, but because we didn't talk about my hair loss at home, I wore wigs, I wore scarves. I wore, they knew that I didn't have hair. Every once in a while they'd see it, but it wasn't anything we talked about or I explained. I was married, so my husband and I, like, we didn't really talk about it much. I just covered it up as much as I could. So when she said it, I felt like the sheet was pulled back, and I'm like, what are you talking about here? We
Uh-huh.
did what? And so I felt devastated. Honestly, I didn't feel like it wasn't welcomed. I was like, no, we don't talk like that. But then I decided, I was like, wow, like, here I have these two girls who are looking to me, and I'm telling them that they're beautiful. And then I'm not reflecting that in my own personal, the way I'm treating myself.
Mhm.
And so I started to pray and say, like, what would it look like to embrace or, to see what it's like to not have hair?
Right.
And so I started walking myself through the process of like, what else could I do if I didn't wear a wig or whatnot? And so I started doing scarves, and I started, I've always been into fashion and stuff like that. So I would just dress up and just find ways to make myself feel like beautiful,
Mhm.
as beautiful as I felt when I wore my hair. And so that got attention of people that were in my community and that were around me. And they were like, oh my gosh, your scarves look so nice. And because my skin is dark, I like really bright, bold colors. And so I think that
Mhm.
helps draw attraction too. People were like, wow, like that's, I wore bright scarves, and that was kind of the replacement for the hair for me. It was like, oh, this is cute. And the big earrings or whatever. And so
Mhm.
yeah, so people started asking me, and I was like, okay, well, this this is becoming a thing, and I enjoyed it. And so I really just then had to decide if I was going to make it a for-profit or nonprofit, which is, a whole different conversation. But
Right.
I landed on nonprofit mostly because, I realized that women and their hair loss is a very sensitive process.
Mhm.
And so just like myself, it took me 20, 20 plus years to even have the conversation. So I was like, I didn't want to make it something that I was kind of forcing onto people. And so I felt like with the nonprofit, people could take their time and find me. And then I would be able to, be there to meet them where they are. So our nonprofit is not specifically promoting women to stop wearing wigs, because I still wear wigs every once in a while, depending on what's going on. But She's Uncovered is more about not wearing the shame. And so not hiding because of, yeah, the fear of what are people going to say. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're wearing a wig or a scarf or anything, it's because that's just what you wanted to wear today. And if you're
Right.
at a party and halfway through you decide, I don't want to wear this anymore, then you should not feel ashamed to not wear it anymore, or, whatever. So that's the support that we're giving, the behind the scenes. We just really found that even doctors or wig stores, they really couldn't address that
Mm-hmm.
well with clients. I heard so many stories, or actually I saw one where I went to a wig store when I was doing my own personal walkthrough of what was in my town, what would be available for me wig wise. And I walked
Mm-hmm.
into a wig store and this lady was like bawling, she was crying. And she was like, this is not what I wanted. And the owner was just being rude. And she was just like, well, that's what you said you wanted. And she was like, well, I just wanted to look like myself. And she was like, well, I didn't even know what you looked like before.
Oh
She was just
man.
like, you cannot return a wig. That's what you wanted. That's what you get, And she's like, this is not what I said. So they were just exchanging this back and forth. And I thought, this cannot be the people that are selling wigs. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just really realized that a lot of the people who own these shops had never lost their hair. They maybe cut it in support to say, hey, I stand with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a lot of them had never lost their hair. And so I thought, wow, like here it is that they're selling a product that they have no knowledge of really. And so yeah, so I just really am like, okay, again, I can support and team up with these places to be able to support these women so that I can help them address that emotional part before they get to the wig store, before, the doctor says, hey, you have this, and
Mm-hmm.
then they automatically go to the wig store. And I feel like there's a step in between there that is really just missing.
Right, right. Okay, so I want to unpack a few things that you talked about this time.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit, okay? When
Hmm.
you decided to stop wearing the wigs, like, um, I don't want to say how old were you, but how long had you had hair loss before you said, okay, you know what? I'm tired of this. Like, how many years at that?
It would have been over 20 years.
Over 20 years. Okay.
Yes. I was
Now
like,
let's go back to your husband. How did you handle, because you said you always wore your wigs and covered it up and hid. So how was the dating process when you met your husband? Like, how did you talk to him about it? Because you said you didn't really say much. So how was that between you and your husband and your hair loss?
dating was interesting because, yeah, I mean, being in close proximity with people was hard. Like, I remember, so my husband and I, we were friends, and he invited me to Cedar Point. And so I would wear a wig because obviously I didn't tell anybody I didn't have hair, and I would wear two pigtails so that way when the roller coaster was roller coastering, I could hold on to my pigtails and
Okay.
nobody would ever know that. So I think for him it was not a not normal thing because women wore weave, we wore weaves, quick weaves and stuff like that. So he has a mom and a sister. So he didn't really like see it as like, oh, why is your hair not, like
You never
coming
asked
out?
the question like, why are you always wearing wigs? Or can I see your hair? Or any of those
No,
things? Like once you guys got closer?
no, he didn't. He didn't. And then I think I can't remember. I have to ask him specifically when, but he didn't have a reaction when I told him like, hey, this is a wig, and he was just like, okay.
Well, I'm
Um,
sure he probably knew.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, at that point, I mean, he knew it wasn't coming out of my scalp. So I think, again, he was just really he talks about how he just really liked who I was as a person and the things that I was doing.
Hmm.
So by the time we even brought it up or talked about it, it wasn't even a topic, really. It was just kind of like, okay, well, I mean, well, you've been doing good all this time.
And you know what? That's great. I mean, the fact that you said he fell in love with you, You know what I mean? He
Mhm.
wasn't worried about the outer, what was going on. Because one thing I always say is that we change as we get older. We all
Yeah.
change, and what we used to look like when we were younger is not what we look like as we get older. So
No.
whenever we're meeting anybody, whoever your partner is, they should be in it for the right reasons. And if they walk
Yeah.
away because of your hair loss, or they find out you don't have hair, or whatever the case may be, that's not the person for you. And I say that all the time. And I've even
Mhm.
had men ask me, like on podcasts and things like that, like, how would you handle this? Or what do you think about men who don't like women with hair? And I'm like, well, they just don't like women without hair. Okay, they not for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's not my thing.
Yeah, I'm not for them and they're not for me, and that's fine. And
Yeah.
I just repeat what I just told you. Now, if you're in a relationship and your person walks away, that's not the one for you. So let them walk
Mhm.
away.
Mhm.
But a lot of women are very, very scared about losing their partners and spouses, and due to this hair loss. It's a
Yeah.
big thing, a big thing. So that's why I was just asking, because I wanted to give an example. I wanted you to provide an example of, like, what was that exchange like?
Yeah, I mean, and I know that his reaction is one that, like you said, that's an ideal outcome. But I
Mhm.
also have helped women who have been very afraid, like to tell the person that they're talking to that they are losing their hair. I have one person specifically. We were walking through it, and she finally told him, and he did. He walked away, and she's like, he ghosted me, and I never heard from him again.
Mm.
Um, and so that is hard to see people go through that, knowing that that should be the last thing to make someone say, like, oh, I'm not with you, especially with wigs and prosthesis and whatever. If that was what you were doing, for them to
Mhm.
not know that you had hair loss in the first place, then again, like, why does it affect anything if if I don't have hair because you didn't know?
Right. Right. Well, that she dodged a bullet. So, I mean, hey, while
Yeah.
he ghosted, he needed to ghost so that he could make room for somebody else who would value her.
Yeah, yeah. So yes.
Okay, okay. All right. So I just wanted to ask those questions. I wanted to make sure we talked about that before we would continue to talk about your nonprofit. All right.
Yeah.
So let's get back into your organization and let's
Okay.
talk about the services you provide to women. How do you help women as far as boosting their confidence?
Well, Uncover Beauty Studio starts with it depends on if they're close or if they're far. So we do, even though we're based in Michigan, we do services all over the US and even virtually. So if you're outside of the US and you need some virtual consultations, we could do that as well. So there starts with online consultation. If there is a need to be in person, then we evaluate from there. So we can do confidence coaching online. We can do skincare evaluations online. Because you've lost your hair, really is like a blank slate. It's like, even if you're starting to lose it and it's starting to thin out, helping you navigate which treatments would you like. We can talk through which type of hair replacement may be good for you. I have clients who haven't lost their full hair, but there's different types of wigs that they can wear, if depends on how their activity level or things like that, but then also have them be prepared for the price point that may be. Because I think oftentimes too, we'll walk into something thinking that's exactly what I need, not realizing that it's going to cost you,
Mhm.
a whole lot. Or we're ordering things on Amazon that may or may not, or and I'm not just Amazon, but online, I should say, because some of these websites can be set up to look like very real websites and
Mhm.
not be authentic. And so helping them walk through whichever stage they are personally, that's what the confidence coaching comes in. And again, the skincare. We also offer confidence companionship, where, say, for example, if we had a client who was ready to stop wearing her wigs and she wanted someone to go to church with her.
Okay.
And so we was able to accompany her to the event that she wanted to go to. So if people have events or things that they, would like someone to be there with them, we
Mhm.
also can support them in that way. So it's a very small, very personal services. that we offer, and we have a retreat this year that I don't know if Kelly, have you ever been to BaldyCon?
I have not. I've heard of
Okay.
it. I've seen it, but I have not been.
Okay. I'm bringing that up to say I've been a couple times, and I've been to the NAF one, to say that it can be very overwhelming. And I had to step back and look at my own self and say, look at how long it took me. And while it's a very brave thing to go to something like that, there are still people who are not there yet.
Right.
So we have a smaller, like 3 people, 4 people, 5 people retreat where you can even just start to have the conversation with a small group of people and then maybe graduate into like a BaldyCon or a NAF or something like that. So again, our services are very personal, very like come into your world, see where you are, and help you walk it through personal situation.
Okay. Now you talked about skincare, and what I don't think people kind of maybe they don't think about it or realize it, but your scalp is a part of your skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
like you do skincare on your face, you need to do skincare on your scalp as well, especially when you cut your hair off, because
Yeah.
you can experience things like razor bumps and different things that could happen due to you shaving your head. So skincare for your scalp is very, very important. So what are some things that you may provide or things you may advise to people to use on their scalps?
Well, it depends on the person. Again, like you said, there's scarring alopecia. There is a number of different ones. It depends on the type of skin condition of their scalp. And the goal is to help them as best as they can feel as comfortable as they can. Because again, depending on the type of alopecia they have, it may not be possible to not have the scarring.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal is to try to lower that inflammation in the skin so that it would lessen and be a lot more comfortable for them.
Okay.
So we talk through their personal skincare routine already and reminding them, yes, like you can take that face care product and put it right all through your scalp and your neck and all that as well. And then helping them, trial and error which products based on their needs would probably be a good fit for them to get something to have their head be more comfortable. So yeah, so we do that all we can do that online as well. It doesn't have to be in person.
Okay. Now, I
Mm.
know you mentioned the companionship part where you
Yeah.
attended an event with the lady. So, is that specifically for Michigan, or do you have a network where maybe if someone, let's just say, is in Chicago, do you have maybe someone who may be there in your network that could support them, or is that part really kind of going to be something that's local right now?
Right now we are growing that part. We are still looking for people that will want to join in with us. Our nonprofit has been around for 4 years. So we're still growing to have people branch off. So right now, I think there's 3 of us who can say, for example, if somebody wanted to have us come out, they could pick one of 3 people currently to talk to over the phone first and see like either they come into like a group meeting or if they know specifically because I'm the face of She's Uncovered right now, usually they'll say like, hey, I want you to come and I
Mhm.
can fly out or catch the train, whatever accommodations can be made to meet them where they are. But yes, hopefully down the line, we were hoping to be able to have people who have been trained or at least to be able to say this person has undergone some sort of training to
Mhm.
acknowledge that they are meeting with you about you and they will have the empathy and the things that they need to be able to serve you when they are with you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about maybe one of your success stories or your memorable moments with one of your clients. Can you think about one of those times or someone who may have stood out? And you don't have to use
Yeah.
names or anything for privacy, but just like the scenario of what may have happened.
Yeah, I have a couple. So one of the first people, there's been a couple people, but first people was, and I know I can use her name, Miss Ebony Jean Dix. She's in Michigan, and she was running for Miss Jackson, which is one of the counties here. And she needed support with her styling and things like that. And so I don't know how much people know about pageants, but pageants, and she advocated, and she advocates for NAF and alopecia, but also advocating for women who are going through hair loss to not have to follow certain rules in the pageant arena
Okay.
that really wouldn't apply for, like, would automatically make them lose, like how their hair is. Well, if I can't do that hairstyle because I don't have it, then
Mhm.
I shouldn't be disqualified for that. So being able to be on her team and help her, be behind her and support her while she showed up and was doing all the grand things that she was doing um,
Mhm.
at at a certain time when we first met. That was really cool.
Okay.
Um, I've had again, we have a gala once a year. We're not doing it this year, but um, and where we've been able to allow women to get dressed up. And I've had so many women say, "Wow, I never dressed up without a wig on. I've
Mhm.
never um just never even imagined it like this." And so we go to like art galleries and things, and we invite the general public, and we see how the men are coming in and they're like telling these women like, "Wow, you're really gorgeous. Like, oh my
Uh-huh.
gosh, you're really good." And so while it is an event for women with hair loss, it also does something for people in the community because they're used to seeing like billboards of people being sick with no hair. But
Right.
to really see women like genuinely like, "Wow, you look good." I've had a lot of men tell me like, "Yeah, I didn't expect to like, feel what I felt when I came here and attended this event." So yeah, we've been able to bring, the community together by hosting the events that we're doing, and the testimonies from the women um, that are having them. And then our calendar. We have our calendar that we share every year that people can purchase to have up on their walls, and people who have been able to pass them out to somebody that they knew that were losing hair, and
Mhm.
they come back and say how encouraged they were to see these women.
Okay. Okay. So you're not doing the gala this year, but are you doing anything or any upcoming? You said the retreat. Is the retreat this year, or is it going to be next year, or what's
The
happening maybe?
retreat Yeah, the retreat is this year.
Okay.
It's in September. It's the first weekend in September.
Okay.
Um, yes,
And where would that be located?
it's going to be in Michigan.
Okay. All right.
Yep, it's going to be in Michigan. If you want to email, if anybody is interested, they can email the information. That's the thing about being a small business. I want to say I believe that it is on the website, but I don't know if it's on there where people can just click and purchase their ticket.
Okay.
I've been having complications with my website. That's something that I thought, oh, I never even thought behind the scenes that some things would be so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so if you go on to she'suncovered.com and you don't see it, then you can inquire, you can fill out a contact form, but it is on our calendar for this year.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now tell me how, like, since you started your nonprofit organization, how has that affected your children as far as how they view you? Because you said that before you didn't talk about it, your daughter was like, "Hey, mom," and you were a little kind of embarrassed and uncomfortable. But now,
Yeah.
how do they see you and the work you do, and how do they respond to that?
My kids are at every gala that we throw, and they're usually the helpers. And first of all, they love that they can be involved in coming and seeing. They've helped me on the set of the calendar shoots and things like that. But funny enough, just probably 4 days ago, a friend texted me because she does a Bible study with young girls, and she texted me and she said, "Your daughter just said that you were her example of biblical beauty and
Oh,
what that looked like." And so I was like, Oh, and then my daughter did come and tell me too. She was like, they wanted us to make sure we told our parents how we felt. So that was really encouraging because again, both my girls have a head full of hair and we're braiding it right now. But to hear her like tell other people that I was an example for her, um that was like, okay, like thank you.
Isn't it like amazing when your children shock you? You're like, my son, he is 8, and one of the kids at school is like, "Yo, why your mom don't have hair? That's why your mom don't have hair." Now,
Yeah.
when we were younger, that would have been a fight. But
Yes.
but my son was like, "And she's beautiful." And then he was like, "And mama, I just went to his laptop and closed it." I was like, "Well, thank you for protecting me."
Right. You're like, don't talk about my mama.
Right. My mama look good. Don't talk about my mama.
Yeah.
So that's always encouraging. And they always find ways to lift us up.
Yeah, it is. And you know what's crazy is for years I was afraid of kids. Like as an adult. Once I became an adult, um, I was afraid because kids do, they say things that adults, maybe, I don't know, adults not,
Mhm.
but we'll have a little bit more filter not to say. But I was like,
Right.
you get around a group of kids and they will just say some stuff that will hurt you in a way that you're like, dang,
Right. Like, excuse me.
excuse me, little person. So yeah, so that was also one of the biggest fears for my own self that I had to overcome was the fear of little people. Like
Mhm.
little adults who would just say stuff that I was just like, I mean, and I knew that I wasn't going, how some people be like, slap a kid. Like, I'm not going to hit nobody's kid or like go off on them. My feelings going to be hurt. And I'm going to just go back to my little corner.
And brush it off.
Yeah. And just be like, dang, kid. Nobody asked you nothing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's talk a little bit, and we're going to just shift a little bit. But have you had any challenges, either personally or in your business? Like, maybe tell me what has been one of your biggest challenges you faced as an advocate for hair loss?
I think the biggest challenge is because even though we see like groups like the group that we're in, the
Mhm.
Baldy Movement or BaldyCon and all these other great organizations that are building, sometimes I wonder like, do I need to do what I'm doing? Like, is it even like making a difference? Are people, is it need? I know that it's needed, but then there's
Mhm.
the actual like, is this really needed though? Because couldn't I just tell them about the other organization or couldn't
Mhm.
I just, volunteer with them and help them out? I think that's the hardest part is that, and also having people buy into what you're doing when you're asking for donations and saying, hey, we want to do this for these people. For a lot of people, hair is cosmetic. Like they feel like, it's a cosmetic thing and we don't have to support, like, okay, that's cute. But we also
Mhm.
know hair is a billion trillion dollar industry too.
Yeah. Yes. Worldwide, it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. And I literally have had people, wig shops, like when I say there's probably 5 wig shops, 1, 2, 3, more than that. I've gone to all of them
Mhm.
and none of them have teamed up with me
Okay.
because I knew that I didn't financially have the money to open a wig shop. And that wasn't really my desire.
Right.
But I had 2 specifically, 3 tell me that they would not work with me because it would take money out of their pocket. Like they just said
Really?
it. Yes, they
So it's
said
not
it.
about the benefit of the client, it's about their pockets.
Yes. And so that has been my hardest struggle, especially if it's like, okay, I know that women are hiding. We know the numbers, the statistics of how many women are going through, again, low to severe. Where are they? And that was one of the things that I had to think about when I decided to walk myself through it. I was like, how come I've never seen any woman without wig? And this was pre-social media and all that other
Okay.
stuff. I mean, social media was around, but I still wasn't seeing it. Now that I've
Right.
looked for it, it's there. But I was like, where are all the women who are going through hair loss? If the number is so high, where are they? So that's how the name She's Uncovered came about as well. But so those have been my like main challenges personally and business wise, to say like, do I continue to do this, or do I like just stop?
Right. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest, I have felt the same way.
Hmm.
But I had to realize, and this is what I want to encourage you with as well. Nobody does what you do, and nobody's going to do it the way you do it. So yes, we have all of these different, Facebook groups and different women doing different things, but we're all doing it in different ways. Me
Yeah.
and you do the exact same thing. I'm a women's hair loss support and authenticity coach. I basically get you from insecure to confident through my own journey. Same thing you do, but you're doing it differently.
Yeah.
Mine's is really, yes, I support women one-on-one, but my biggest thing is like this podcast and sharing information, and the TV show I'm working on and producing, like putting the
Yeah.
information out to in media wise for women to grab it and get it and use it, and maybe contact these businesses that could support them with whatever they need. Like that is what I'm kind of understanding now, that I think that is my role in this whole big old thing of
Yeah.
hair loss. But yeah, I definitely have had the same feelings. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I working so hard and spending money on these things and putting myself out? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's I have to always go back to my original why of, well, I experienced this and I want to help other women who experience it
Hmm.
as well. Like I want to help get them to the other side. Not like you said, not to say that you don't need to wear a wig. If you want to wear a wig, fine. If continue, but I just want you to be confident in whatever decision you make. If that's a
Yeah.
scarf, a hair wrap, a wig, a bald head, whatever that is, let's just get you to living life, because so
Yeah.
many women are just not living anymore because of
Yeah.
hair loss.
Yes. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Cool. 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 So, I asked you about your challenges, but I guess I kind of want to you wrap it up a little bit. But
Okay.
how can people contact you or reach you if they need support? That's what we need. That's how I want to. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you can people can reach me at she'suncovered.com. That's SHES uncovered UNCOVERED uncovered.com. They can message me on Instagram at she's.uncovered. And they can see some of the pictures and work that we've done there. We have a Facebook that She's Uncovered as well. And they can just Google. They could Google She's Uncovered. I haven't had anything crazy pop up. I haven't had anything crazy pop up, but you
Okay.
can type in She's Uncovered. You might want to put hair loss behind it so that nothing crazy pops up.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Well, like, cause she's uncovered. Okay. What?
I know. And it's funny too, because I went back and forth and I thought, I wanted it to be a bold enough name to pique curiosity, but you know, again, not go too crazy. And I mean, when I picked it, it was fine. But again, the world is continuing to grow and people are always picking new names. And so somebody else will pick up. And that's how I got She's Dot Uncovered, because I had She's Uncovered on Instagram, and then somehow I lost it. And the person that picked it up, I was just like, "Ugh, okay."
Right, right. Okay. All right. So you guys, you got her contact information, and I have her website. I'll definitely put the link to her website in the description of the show. All right. So Nekeyta, tell me, like, what would be some lasting words you would like to leave with a woman or a girl, because you lost your hair very young. So you
Mm.
can leave two separate pieces of advice, but what would you leave as far as encouragement in regards to hair loss for either a little girl, teenager, a grown woman? What would you say to someone who's like really going through it right now?
I would say, don't be afraid to ask for the help. As we both just talked about, the different avenues and the different people that are out here willing to help. whether it's through this podcast or reaching out one-on-one to whoever, whichever person you resonate with, as far as getting the help, to just find someone or some organization to help you process your thoughts, because you really don't have to do it by yourself. I would say, and don't be afraid to invest in that help as well. I'm personally going through, well, I think we're all going through a weight loss journey because of the way culture is set up today.
Mhm.
But I just think about, like, we'll buy a dinner, we'll buy a meal, we'll buy, these things that cost, $50, $60 easily. And then sometimes when it comes to our own, like, I'm going to buy a session with someone, or if I am going to fly out to this convention and pay it for a ticket, we get a little nervous. And so I would say, don't be afraid to take that money and invest it into your own personal growth, so that way you can actually live, because the world is big and we don't have to live in our little shells that
No,
we have. It's good to be comfortable, but also, like, if we're gonna be on this earth, let's just live it to the fullest capacity that we each individually see fit. So don't allow hair loss for anybody across the board, woman, man, or child. Don't let you losing your hair hold you back from having the life that you deserve.
well said. Well said. Thank you so much. All right. So before we wrap up today, I do have an announcement, because you heard me talk about my TV show that I'm producing. So an extension of the Bougie Baldy podcast is going to be the Bougie Baldy show. And I am looking for collaborators, partners that want to be on the show and showcase your service or your products. So if you are in the hair industry in general, it could be hair styling, hair care, hair loss, anything regarding hair or scalp care. I'm looking for you. So if you are someone who wants to put your product or service out to a global audience, yes, global, worldwide. Nekeyta just said it. This is a big world. We cannot stay just focused on United States. We have to focus on the world, because there are people around the world who are having issues with their hair, regardless of what you may think. But if you are one of those people who have those types of businesses that support any type of hair related issues or hair care, and you want to put your product or service out there and market it for everyone to see globally, make sure you reach out to me and let's schedule a call and talk, because I am looking for people right now to be a part of the show. So I am going to put the link to my calendar to schedule a call in the description of this show. So all you have to do is go click on it, schedule some time with me so we could talk about you potentially being on the Bougie Baldy show. All right. Okay, well, that is all we have for today. Thank you again, Nekeyta, for joining us
Thank
on the
you.
Bougie Body Podcast. And we will see you next week, okay? Bye, everyone. Are you a woman struggling with hair loss, feeling unattractive and insecure? At Limitless Mindset Coaching, we understand the emotional toll that hair loss can take. In just 90 days, we help you transform from feeling lost and embarrassed to radiating with confidence and joy. Imagine building your self esteem, discovering the perfect camouflage technique to cover up your hair loss, and receiving tips and tricks that can help you with your hair loss and embrace the new you while connecting with a supportive community of women just like you. Say goodbye to those negative emotions and hello to a positive mindset. Picture vibrant new relationships, walking through the room with your head held high, participating in social events and activities again, and living a life filled with happiness. Are you ready to take that first step? Well, visit www.limitlessmindsetcoach.com or click the link in the description today, and let's embark on this empowering journey together.
Thank you for watching the Bougie Baldy Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe